Hello, Molweni Sanu Hujambo. This is Unwrap Africa. I'm Tembekile Mkhototo. On this show, every Sunday night, we focus on Africa's latest news, trends, as well as the successes of the continent. Siyaqaqa. Coming up tonight, the Pan-African Parliament has wrapped up its 7th session. We'll also take a look at the level of support for women footballers as the WAFCON tournament is underway. But first, a look at our question of the day. And what we want to know from you is, why is public and financial support for African women football teams still lacking despite the improving quality of their performance? You can let us know your thoughts on Facebook, where we are SABC Unwrap Africa. Alternatively, find us on X, we are SABC News_TV. Right now, a look at the main news stories from the continent this week. And we start with Spanish officials who say the number of people who have drowned trying to reach the North African exclave of Ceuta from Morocco has now risen to more than 70. Tens of thousands of migrants surged into the territory from Morocco on Thursday, prompting security and diplomatic crises for Spain. In Algeria, 25 people have died after a passenger bus overturned in one of the governorates. The Civil Protection Agency says 44 others were injured in that incident. Prominent Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye collapsed while attending a court session in the capital Kampala this week, where he's currently on trial for treason. Besigye has been in custody since November 2024 and faces charges of treason.
It is worth emphasizing that recovery alone is not enough.
Authorities in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have destroyed over 2,800 illicit and decommissioned small arms and light weapons. Officials say the weapons will be smelted after the burning as part of efforts to keep illegal weapons out of circulation.
This is a win for Liberia. This is a clear message to criminal organizations that Liberia is not your comfort zone. Don't come here.
Authorities in Liberia have destroyed a staggering 4 tons of cocaine. It was seized in one of the country's largest drug busts. Authorities say the origin of the cocaine is still unclear and that further chemical analysis will now be conducted. Telling you about this earlier, the Pan-African Parliament wrapping up the first session of the 7th Parliament. Last week, the continent's legislative body hosted a conference for speakers of national as well as regional parliaments. Addressing that conference, in fact, was South Africa's Speaker of the National Assembly, Thoko Didiza, who emphasized the importance of PAP in ensuring democracy prevails in Africa. The President of the Parliament, Fateh Boutebeg, also touched on the body's role on the continent.
I know that in the latest months, the issue of migration has been uppermost and has touched us in different ways. But also it has called us to reflect on how we have to manage this challenging issue in order to also manage the cohesion of our continent. And I want to say, difficult the debate as it may have been yesterday, where we exchange views, but what is important is that we're candid and open with one another about the challenges that we face.
Today need to move from just defining visions, but rather to implementing those and making them a reality. Now we are to move from just making recommendations, but to implement those so that we have concrete results.
In such circumstances, parliaments cannot remain on the margins of global decision-making. They give a voice to citizens, bring national realities into international debate, and transform political commitments into laws, budgets, and practical action. This is precisely why the work of the Pan-African Parliament is so important.
Hello again. Women football has been the topic on everyone's lips since the start of the Women's African Cup of Nations on the 25th of July, with women football then on the rise. Pundits have called into question the amount of support and resources that are put into the sport. Some quarters have argued, in fact, that the light that basically shines brighter for male counterparts as opposed to the women teams has, in fact, been discouraging. Let's talk further about this now. We're joined by two guests on the program this evening, Judith Chime and Khabo Zitha, to talk about women's football on the continent. My thanks to you both. Judith, I think it's only fair that I let you have the first bite of the cherry and get your assessment of the state of women's football in Africa today.
Thank you so very much for having me on your show. I really feel honored. I must tell you, being abroad and staying in the US and watching women's soccer in Africa, it's a thing of appalling. It just is something one cannot comprehend. I mean, we've come of age for us to still be going through what we're going through. I'm looking at the WAFCON right now, and I see in the stadium, you can count people in the stadium. And it's so sad that African supporters or African companies don't seem to understand that supporting the girls football really matters. But when you talk about the men, they're pumping money throughout, and whatever millions they want to throw out there just to make sure the men work. But they forget this game is actually the same game. We're both playing the same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at WAFCON, and it just looked like I'm looking at a child game, not something international. You look at the stadium look like you can pretty much count maybe 10, 15 people. But when Morocco plays, you see people in the stand. So I'm asking the question, when would Africa actually come together and start doing the needful? Both the men and the women will play size 5. Both the referees that officiate the game officiate the same thing that we play. If they give them red card, they give the women red card. So what is different from the game? That's my question. I played this game way back in the 80s, and I'm not happy about it. There's no improvement.
I was going to bring in Khabo, but Judith, on just the start of your football career then in the 80s, compared to us where things stood when you started out and where we are then in 2026, do you see any positive or upward movement in terms of support by the public and, let's say, commercially?
No, I don't. I mean, back then when we played, I know we were playing for the country. We had the pride. We had the passion. We wanted to make a statement. We know there was no money then, and we know we just starting off, and we expected that maybe someday, sometime, but not now in the 21st century, and we're still where we are right now. The only country that you can see that in Africa you can really look at, you can believe that they're actually doing something meaningful, look like it's Morocco. And I don't know any other country I can mention, but for me, I see like Morocco is the only team right now that is really showing that the team deserves to be flourished. I mean, think about it. We play size 5. Why do they have to treat us less? Why?
Khabo, let me bring you into the conversation. Why do you think we're still seeing such, shall we say, lackluster support for African women football teams more generally?
Yeah, good evening once again. And to be quite honest with you, I fully agree with Judy. Because now it's very sad to look at WAFCON that is taking place right now in Africa, which we're having the biggest continent ever, and we are not even supporting the narrative of us being Africans and playing the game to the best of our abilities to compete internationally, because this tournament is so built up to improve the talent that we have in Africa, to go and compete at the World Cup against all odds. But with us, women, football is not supported that much. And I don't see any much of a change.
Why is that? Why is the support still lacking? Khabo? Okay, I think we've lost Khabo. Actually, Judith, let me come back to you. You referenced Morocco as an example of a country that you believe is, in fact, pouring into women football, right? Is that problem, the issue of a lack of support, is it country-specific?
To be honest, I don't know if I have to say it is country thing or it's just people just feel like the women don't deserve the support that they need. But when you look at other countries, and to be honest, I'm not trying to digress, right? If we look at the way soccer is going right now, African players are the best in the world. We have all the talent, we have everything, but we're missing that one thing, the support. And it's only in Africa that when you're getting ready for a tournament, 2 weeks or 1 day before the tournament, they call you to camp. But when every other part of the world get ready for the tournament, they get ready at the normal time. And what do you expect? Every continent give their country, give their athletes the support that they need, the female teams and everything. But when it comes to Africa, they don't care. It seems like we're just participators. We're not there to compete. We're not there to give any country a fight. We're just there to make the numbers. And that's how I look at it. And I feel like where we are today, we need to come out of it, because Africa is a continent that has everything that they want, everything that anybody can ask for. And I think we've come of age for us to still be hanging in and waiting for the men to do the thing. And to be honest with you, sometimes I try to ask myself the question, when you talk about all those first ladies, all those governors, all those chairmen, and all, they all have wives. When you look at what the men are doing, the men pump in money to support the event. What happened to the women? Are they not first lady of their country? Are they not supposed to be doing the same thing their husbands are doing? Africans have the money to support anything. FIFA send in money when it's time for tournament. Same thing goes to CAP. So what are they doing with the funding? Why not give the funding that is meant for the women to the women, and also find a way to make the marketing work better, and so the women can get this visibility that the men are getting? You pay the men better, and see we get peanut, and see we get sharp, and still we're not even being acknowledged the way we're supposed to be acknowledging. Women giving all they got, with all the pride and everything. Men just give minimum, and these men make millions. These women don't make nothing. They give minimum.
Let me ask you then, Judith. Let me ask you, can the argument still be made? I mean, I'm sure having played from the 80s, you've heard this said time and time and again, but is there still any truth to the argument that ultimately the quality or lack of quality of the game played by the women's teams is why there isn't, for example, the same commercial support as with the men's football? Does that have any merit in today's day and age on the continent specifically?
And when you talk about that argument, you're only talking about African. That's just the argument for African continent, not around the world. I refuse to take that argument as something that the whole world actually agreed to. Look at take US, for instance, where I am right now. The women team are more, they get more than the men, the visibility. It is actually now that they start paying the women what they pay the men, because they're doing the same thing the men are doing. It is only in Africa, it's just the African mentality that they believe that women are meant not to be doing what men are doing. But ask me a question, I'll tell you this. Women are also the one bringing much glories to the countries. So why are you going to sideline the women? So it's about time the African continent, all the ministers, all the people running football in every part of African nation, they need to put their particular aside and just see us as people who are willing to bring that victory to the country, because we deserve it. We deserve it. We ought to be acknowledged as people who are fighting to make the nation look better. Not just the way they look at it as and feel like, okay, yeah, these are girls, they're not gonna do this. Those girls, they bleed like the men bleed. Those girls, they get hurt like the men get hurt. So what is different? That field, they don't call us to run maybe a different field. The field that the men play is where we play. Whatever run they make is what we make. So what is the difference? Why are we making that mistake? Why are we making the mistake? If we lose today, we're not going to the World Cup. Right. If they lose today, they're not going to the World Cup. So what is the difference?
And on that point, I want to ask you about two changes for this year's WAFCON then. Judith, Khabo, I see you're back, but we're almost out of time. Judith, just lastly then, two changes now with WAFCON. 16 teams are playing for the first time. The prize money for the winners has gone up from $1 million to $2 million. Is that a sign of the change that we've been calling for? Are we beginning to see that take place? Women in African football being taken more seriously based on those two changes?
I'll say I'm very grateful that they actually made that little change in terms of giving from 1 million to 2 million. But I ask you a question: is that what they're giving the men?
No, it's not.
Exactly. So how much are they giving the men? Remember, they said 1 million to 2 million, right? So just ask yourself the question. I'm sure the men are making maybe 20 million and they're going to opt it to 40 million. What makes them get 40 or what makes them get 20? Are they playing size 10? We're playing size 5. They're playing size 5. Are they running the field better than we do? No, we run the same race that you run it. So what is so different? The question here is they just need to, I'm so grateful that they actually took that turn to actually make the money increase a little bit. But I think we deserve better. We deserve better. And I promise you, by the time the African continent actually show more time and show more commitment to the women's team, I promise you, every other country will hear of African continent. I promise. I'll put my money on it any day, anytime. Because African talent, you can beat it. You cannot beat it. You cannot beat it.
Khabo, we had lost you. I want in 30 seconds, now that we've got you back, how do we improve support for the African women football teams going forward so that we're not having this conversation during the next Women's World Cup or the WAFCON?
My take is that there shouldn't be lack of interest, towards the game, especially for women taking place in the men's game. I think that it's only fair for especially us Africans to support one another, to go forward, because now we are competing for the World Cup, So we want to see more teams in the World Cup from Africa and going to the last 16, So how are we going to do that if we're failing to support the mere tournament that is in our own soil in Africa? How can we not support such a biggest tournament ever? Like, stadiums are empty. It's very sad to see that platform that is so taken, like, underestimated, and we are playing to go for the international games, which is the World Cup. And it's a bigger stage there. So if we can support each other as Africans here at home, it's only African teams, but there's nobody at the stadium. We know that the tournament has been postponed before, and maybe that made people not to follow what is going to happen next, whether the tournament is next month or next year or when. Maybe that also played a big role, but still, we needed to have numbers at the stadium so that we show that we support our sisters, because if football is football, then it brings people together at the end of the day.
Khabo, thank you so much. Judith, thank you to you as well for joining us this evening on a conversation regarding the compensation and support for African women football teams. And it's actually a question to you on Unwrap Africa this evening. We want to know, why is public and financial support for these African women football teams still lacking despite the improving quality of their performance? Let's look at some of your feedback. Okay, apologies. We don't seem to have that feedback ready just yet, so we'll hopefully be able to bring it to you before the end of tonight's edition of Unwrap Africa. A quick breather, and then we're back with more after this. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, well, you've just made it to the tail end of this evening's edition of Unwrap Africa, and we're joined by singer-songwriter Brandon Ora tonight, also known as the Folk Kid. He's been described as a unique artist whose lyrics reflect his own experiences, and he's, as I was saying, in studio with me to talk about that. Now, Brandon, good to see you. You've got a new single out. It came out, I think, about 3 weeks ago now. Yes. Run, Boy, right?
Yes.
Also draws from a deeply personal experience. How far did you have to go?
I'll say I wrote this song in 2014, and for the longest time, I've always wanted people to get to listen to the song. I really would love to tell a story, my story, even stories of people that are not heard. And I feel like Run Boy is just the perfect song for that.
And what is the story that you tell in Run Boy? I mean, the title gives it away slightly,
Yes.
but there's more to it.
Run Boy is a song that I wrote for my mom. I really grew up like in poverty, and she would always tell me not to give up and be resilient and chase after whatever I want. And those words really stuck with me for the longest time. And one day I was like, in honor of her, how about I make my first song Run Boy, so I can try to empower someone out there to tell someone to not give up in their dreams and believe in whatever they want. And yeah, for some reason, the song is here right now.
And you don't meet many young men who are described as folk artists, certainly not in 2026. Yeah. Why that route for you when there's so many other options?
I feel like with folk music, it's very simple, you know. It's just a guitar and your voice and honest storytelling. I think that's the most best way to tell a story, by being simple, you know. I wanted to make music that really connects with people. And what's the best way to connect with music, with people, by just playing your guitar and sharing your stories. And
in fact, would I be right? I was looking at your social media earlier, and you were covering Neria by the late, great Oliver Mtukudzi. Yes. Am I fair to assume, am I right to assume, in fact, that that would have been one of your inspirations?
Yes, definitely. I grew up listening to Oliver Mtukudzi. I think from my dad, he really loved that sound, loved the artist. And that really influenced my sound in a major way.
Any other African giants who you would say have shaped your take on music?
Yes. Sagi, Vusi Mahlasela, and Zahara.
And where do we find you?
I'm available on Spotify, Instagram, every streaming platform. Instagram is Brandon Aura, Facebook Brandon Aura, everywhere. And yeah, stream Run Boy also.
And you're going to give us a taste of Run Boy, right?
Definitely.
All right, so then we're going to play out this evening with the sounds of Brandon Aura with his brand new single, Run Boy. Do go out and listen to it on all streaming platforms. The Unwrap Africa team back with you 8 p.m. next Sunday right here on SABC News. Good night.